most important aspect of performing in this industry, and I couldn't agree more. That's what it's all about. If you this year did not realize that sanitation was not well, if you didn't realize it was important, I guess you do now, right? With everything going on this year. I think we've taken a moment to step back and say, okay, have I not been wearing gloves? Should I? Absolutely. We've always worn gloves at Southeastern Aesthetics Institute. And going through this year, I just thought, well, these are things we've always done. These are things we've always done. And I know in our advanced program, especially with use of chemicals and this, that, and the other, we've always worn masks. So this is just something we can go the extra mile with this year. And I'm going to show you my written plan. So that's aside from this presentation. We're going to go through this first, but I think it's important to have a written plan on your website for COVID-19 procedures. So go ahead and write that down in your notes. Make sure that's just off to the side because you need to know what to do this year to make yourself stand out in a way that speaks to your clients regarding safety. It's not just what we've always done. We need to go that extra step and showcase more. In fact, I just got off the phone with Dr. Carol, one of my physicians that works for me, yesterday, and we chatted about even more we could add to the written plan, to be quite honest with you. So I'll show you mine. It's pretty lengthy, but there's always evolving things here. And I think it's just one of those things, you can't just put something in place as of March when all this was just starting with COVID. And then all of a sudden here we are in November and everything should be the same. It shouldn't. Things are evolving. You should always be adding. And you know, that's what I have to say. As a business owner, it's important. Okay, then let's see what else. It's all about ethics. If you see that last point there, you're going to respect yourself for ethical sanitation practices because we're in private treatment rooms. We're in private treatment rooms. So we have to hold ourselves accountable when no one else is watching, right? That's so important. Okay, write this down. I am not quizzing you on this shockingly today because normally I do, but these are important things. So I'm going to pretend like y'all are all little mini spa owners or managers today, even though you might not be. You might work for someone else. You might not be employed right now or whatever, but let's pretend like you are actually training your staff, training your front desk providers how to go through this stuff. Because sometimes we hire support staff, right? Like front desk staff that may help us with laundry or whatever. They book appointments, they do all the really important things, but they need to know how to help you sanitize and clean items. And they're not licensed like we are, so they don't know. So you have to educate. So use this as a moment today. If you want this slideshow, shoot me an email and I can definitely send this because this is one of those things. It's good to do a training with your team all the time. So these 3 steps of cleaning, let's pretend like this pen is an extractor tool. Okay, so we're going to clean it. So decontamination means what? It means washing with antibacterial soap and water to remove bioburden. So if you were standing in front of me today, I would say, well, what is bioburden? And you would tell me dirt, debris, dead skin, all the things. Put a star by that one. Decontamination is the one that people forget to do the most. That is the truth, right? We need to make sure we take those items over to the sink, wash with soap and water first before we put it in the wet sanitizer. Please don't forget that. I think as you know, most of you that are on this, you might have been licensed for many, many years at this point. Don't get into bad habits. Don't watch others that are in bad habits already and follow along with that. Make sure you're going that extra step. Okay, and then decontamination. Then disinfection is the removal of most, but not all, microbial life. The removal of most, but not all, microbial life. And so this one's important because you have got to place your item after it's been decontaminated in the wet sanitizer for how long? Usually 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever the manufacturer's directions say, right? But you have got to make sure not to keep it in there. Those are not storage containers. I cannot tell you how many salons I go into here and there, and you'll see people using them as a storage unit. Okay, so you've got hair cutting shears, combs, brushes, extractor tools, tweezers, whatever, and it's all in there, and you see things floating around in there. That's not how this is supposed to go, right? So reevaluate right now. If you think this is you, let's step back, let's look at it and say, okay, this is not sanitary. If an inspector were to walk into your salon or spa right now, what are you going to do? Showcase the right thing. Make sure you're the cleanest one on your block, right? Then that's where it stops for the Board of Cosmetology. And I think that's important to realize. You do not have to do sterilization, but if you do, It's always a good thing. So sterilization is the removal of all microbial life inclusive of spores. I do think this should be required after this year with all the stuff going on. But here's what that is. So you're going to take it out of your wet sanitizer. You're going to dry it off, okay? If it's a metal implement like an extractor tool, you're going to place it in what? You're going to place it in your autoclave for however long. All of them are a little bit different, but your autoclave is what you can connect with the term sterilization. Okay, autoclave, sterilization, don't forget those. All right, then please don't look at my spelling error on here. Clearly that's supposed to be PPE. So please write that down. All right, so OSHA is the first term, and it stands for Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And OSHA regulates what? They regulate health and safety in the workplace to cater to you and your health and your safety. And then we extend that out to our clients, and it's all good stuff. So OSHA, we have OSHA, and then we have LLR. So OSHA is who LLR answers to regarding to health and safety in the workplace. And that's a good thing to know. And then Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, if you're going to take a note on this one, you're going to write down that the EPA registers many different types of disinfectants. Okay, the EPA registers many different types of disinfectants. Make sure you write that down. We're going to talk about the 3 types of disinfectants in just a moment. And then PPE is what that's supposed to say, personal protective equipment. Of course, we're all wearing our masks these days. All right. So what did I do this week? On Tuesday, we did advanced clinic. I did a ton of permanent makeup stuff alongside our advanced academy students and alongside Dr. Carol. We wear our mask during the whole thing, and I might change it out. I like using the disposable ones. That's what I like to use. I can breathe a little bit better. And then yesterday I taught eyelash extensions all day. We did 3 groups of that from, 9 o'clock to 4, 5, 6 o'clock last night, wearing the mask the entire time. So keep ensured that this is not going to go away. I think that even if it's not required out in public or whatever, we need to require it in the treatment room for a long time. So keep those coming. Then you want to make sure you have your gloves. If you were taught not to wear gloves during facials, get out of that. Get out of that today. You've got to make sure you'll wear gloves, and that's what we have always done at Southeastern, and it's what I'm requiring of you today, okay? I'm going to make sure that we together work on these little things. Make sure you wear your nitrile gloves. They are latex-like, yet latex-free, and that's a good thing. Additionally, an extra step you could take, I have found, I wish I had a little sample, I've got it at the school, but we have found some disposable smocks. If y'all happen to come to Kiowa over the summer, I did a hands-on class there for CEU credit. And if you take my hormones class virtually, you'll see some video recordings of me doing some demonstrations where I'm wearing all the PPE, right? So the face mask, the gloves, and the disposable smocks. That's kind of nice this year. You want to make sure to go the extra mile, get that PPE. If you need to, honest to God, increase your costs $2 to $5 per treatment in order to cover all these fees, do what you got to do. It's about to be the end of a year, going into the new year. Look at your vendors, price out your competitors when it comes to pricing PPE. You've got to add that in. It's not going away. Okay. Then everybody write down 3 types of disinfectants. And of course, if you were live with me, I would make you say the term quaternary ammonium compounds, but you're not. If you want to say it to yourself, have at it. I love when people say long words, right? We can call this quats for short, but here's your actual brands of quats, okay? I am so funny right now. We're in the middle of doing construction on Main Street for 30,000 square feet. So we're moving the school to one big space. We're excited. And I literally woke up at 4:30 this morning, which is what time I wake up every day, but I had dreamed about all my spray bottles per classroom, per section. So I was going to do my spray bottles of my quat solution and label it for the new auditorium, or do my quat solution spray bottles for the spa, or do the quats sanitizing spray bottles for the classrooms or for the cafeteria or whatever. And I'm going to make sure that we have 3 to 5 for each section of the facility, and make sure they're labeled as quaternary ammonium compounds and for what part of the facility it's for. Think about that. Relabel all your things. I think this is a good time to start fresh, start new. Why not? Get new spray bottles, make sure they're labeled as this. But here's what it's going to be. Your brands are what? Barbicide, we know. You've got cavicide, leukocyte, citrus 2. Y'all kind of remember citrus 2 maybe from state board. And then there's another one. I think Universal Companies came out with Rejuvenate. It's a really nice brand. They have an online certification class you can take. Really great. So there's many different types. Please don't think that barbicide is the only one, right? Barbicide's not the only one, and that's something to remember. Then I always say, if you have ever gone to a daycare center and you smell bleach water all over the place, that is okay because it's a registered disinfectant. So always remember, sodium hypochlorite is the other name for household bleach. That is something to recall. So then phenolics is the third one. That one's harmful for hair, skin, and eyes. And it's not something you're going to use in the salon industry, but it does exist. And of course, in our advanced course, we talk about phenol chemical peels and all that good stuff. It's very, very, very harsh chemical. So same chemical compound, but it's used for industrial cleaning and things of that sort. So you're going to either use quartz or bleach. I highly recommend a quartz solution. Every time I wear black, which is typically what I normally wear in the classroom, I'm always getting bleach stains all over the place. I love the smell of Clorox like anybody else, but make sure you have your new spray bottles labeled quaternary ammonium compounds, okay? That way you can use anything. Doesn't have to be bleach. It doesn't have to be barbicide. It can be any of those other ones we discussed. Cavicide, leukocyte, citrus 2, rejuvenate, whatever. And make sure you label which room it's supposed to go in. That way you never lose. You never lose your little spray bottles. Here are your pictures, your dispensary equipment. So if I was quizzing you today, which I'm not on this section, I would say, what are 2 pieces of equipment that may be in your dispensary? And you would tell me wet sanitizer, which is the picture to the left, and then you would say your autoclave. So just make sure y'all have those. But look at what it says about autoclave. It's not required by the Board of Cosmetology, but many of you might work in physician's offices or something. You might already have this and you use it all the time, but you don't have to have this under the Board of Cosmetology. But look at what it says. Must be spore tested every 30 days by an outside entity. Okay, that's important. That's important. Make sure you have those. Then my last one on this particular section, I'm going to actually show you some board orders, some board regulations, copy paste. It's in here. Good to know. Bacteria, the difference between viruses and bacteria. You've got bacteria, which are one-celled microorganisms, also known as germs. The big one that we have to worry about in the salon industry is MRSA. And I'll tell you one small story and then we'll move on to the thing. Okay. What we do, and I speak to estheticians, if you're a cosmetologist on here, welcome, we love you too. But as estheticians, we really focus in on a couple of specific items. I was on my honeymoon, decided to get a facial, whatever. That was probably a bad choice because I'm as picky as anybody else. So I'd rather go get a massage, probably do my own facials, right? But I went and did it, and I got up at the end, and number one, she didn't do the microdermabrasion correctly. She was dragging, which pulls at broken capillaries, and I actually had to correct her. I said, no, you do small hashtag patterns as to not cause broken capillaries. And she was very sweet. I tipped her and everything was good. She was very receptive to what I had to say. But at the end, I shouldn't have tipped her, and I really should have reported her to her manager. She actually, how people have their sinks. She had filled up the sink with water and had my facial sponges that she used on me just in the sink. So she did not have a bowl, okay, a separate bowl of water that she was using. She literally plugged up the sink and filled up water that way. And I just thought, wow, she should have her license taken away. That's pretty terrible. And someone trained her that way. She was the sweetest girl, whatever. But y'all, we have got to do better. That's not okay. This is exactly why nail salons are getting dinged. But have you all noticed that at nail salons lately, they're putting all those covers over the pedicure bowls as to cover the little drain, because what happens is you've got bacteria, dead skin, all this kind of stuff. You can't get down in the drain. You just can't do that. You can try to clean it as much as you can, put stuff down there, but there's going to be bacteria that gets in there. And ultimately that can be what causes MRSA and whatever, any sort of bacteria infection. So here's the thing. Never, ever utilize a sink, right, to fill up your water. Y'all know that. Always think infection, infection, infection. Sanitation is so key. Always use single-use items. Always clean your implements between each client. Y'all have to know that. That's the basis of why you even have a license. And if y'all are scared of one thing in this life as a licensed professional, it should be getting our licenses taken away and or the entire industry being deregulated. That could very well happen. And it's going to happen if you all do not report people. And I'm going to show you on the LLR website where to report people for infectious anything, or if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing other than infection control. But we have to hold people accountable. I want people to hold me accountable. That makes me better too. You know, we all have something to work on. And I think if we are all receptive to that, we can all keep going in this industry and make a difference in the lives of those that we influence, right? But then viruses are, we know this year because of COVID, smaller than bacteria and exist by taking over the host cell's reproductive function, the host being you. So things like HIV, the flu, the cold, those are viral infections, not treatable by antibiotics. Bacterial infections are, but make sure you understand the difference and you are preventing against any sort of issue with either one. Okay. So these are the ones, if you see all of this, this is literally copy paste of some things that I find to be pretty important for the current rules and regs. So as part of the task force last year coming into earlier this year, the last meeting I went to was in February, right before COVID. And we were going to update some of this stuff. This was obviously put off due to this year. We'll see what happens, you know, moving into the State House. If something else were to be updated, I will keep you all in the loop. But these have been in place since 2017. Okay, so just make sure that these are applicable still right now, and they're going to be updated just a little bit, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. So this one, I just want you to write down and just know that this section here talks about everybody being held liable. And I love that so much. So this helps me teach my students about where to go work. Okay, so if you're going to an interview for a job, you need to interview them as much as they're interviewing you. My question to any employer would be, okay, tell me about your sanitation practices, who is in charge of that, and who do I need to go to make sure that I'm in compliance with sanitation in your spa? How often do you do sanitation infection control training? All these things that you might not think about, because if somebody is out of compliance, all those that hold a license will be out of compliance. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to fine for anything. And you can actually look up, I'll show you on the website, board orders. You can look up everybody's names, what they got fined for, and how much they paid. I don't know how much more embarrassing that can be, but you can look those up and it's for public view. So make sure that you are working in a place in which you're not the only one practicing sanitation. Everybody's practicing sanitation and everybody holds each other accountable. Okay, then this one just goes into what happens, failure to observe all rules and regulations, that sort of thing. I just want everybody to know that these are written and it is up to you. And this is on my slideshow, but I'll show it to you in the website in a moment. But everybody needs to get on this website and read these rules and regs at least on a quarterly basis, especially this year. There's been so many things added to the website, just things I want you to know that have come up due to COVID and whatever. It's good to take a look at this, because if you hold a license, you can't just stand there and act like, well, I didn't know. It's out there for you to read. You just have to sit and read and totally ask questions. If y'all have questions about a rule or regulation, please ask me, and I can either answer it myself or point you in the direction of someone that can. This next one is important to me, residential salons. I hate seeing people do this incorrectly, and I'm sure you unfortunately know someone that's doing this. Even this year, you cannot work in your home unless you have a salon license, folks. You can't take money for beauty services. You can't do anything of that sort out of your home unless you have a salon license. The only way you're going to have a salon license is if you follow all these steps. So you have to have separate living quarters. You have to have you actually have to have you must have no interconnecting doors between living quarters. So that honestly takes us all out of the equation. If you don't have like a she shed in the backyard or a mother-in-law suite or something completely separate, then you of course cannot have any animals. You have to have hot and cold running water. Everything has to be labeled. It is truly just like any other commercial space for a salon. And that application's on the board website. And then I think the new thing they had added in 2017 is number 4 there, where it says separate toilet facilities for patrons must be provided. So again, it can't just be a shed in the backyard. It has to have plumbing and it has to have toilet facilities and all of that as well. If you have any questions on that, definitely shoot me a text or an email. Okay, then, and I'll just keep these short and sweet, but please look at these. Licensees and students must dispose of all porous supplies or materials that come in correct contact with a patron. I was telling students the other day that, what was it? When I was in school, I remember, and this was a long time ago, but I remember how we used to take sponges and the facial sponges that expand that we love, they feel so great, and we would launder them. And they had a little bag that we would put them in and they would go through the wash and then we would reuse them. That's no more. That's no more. We cannot do that. If you use those expandable sponges, they have to be one-time use. So if you like those so much from a business standpoint, because I'm always thinking numbers, you got to up your price of your facials. You really, really do. One thing we do at Southeastern, we are big on gauze. Gauze is much cheaper than those expandable sponges, I'll be honest. So make sure that you're kind of looking at all your disposable items. Is this cost is this cost effective? Does this make sense? Can I use gauze? Does the client really pay attention? Or can I use some nice sponges and maybe put them in a little bag and give them to my client to take home to use for a little while, and then they can throw them away throw them away themselves as well. There's different things. So look at your costs. I'm very big on business ownership. That is what I stand for, and that's what I teach my students. It's very empowering to know how to do it yourself. You don't ever need to rely, and y'all know this in life, you can never rely on anybody else for your success. If you stop working because you're not employed by someone else, that's not really a good excuse. Y'all all have the resources, materials. I'm here to help you. Everybody can open their own thing, no matter how big or how small. So again, costs have to be in your thought process here. Then it goes into disinfecting non-electrical instruments and equipment. All that I really want you to know in this one is, let's see, we're talking about aesthetics equipment today. Wipe everything down. I think that everybody's so focused on maybe your treatment tables and their countertops and whatever. Listen up, wipe down the handles on your hot towel cabinet. Wipe down the top and the bottom of your mag light. Wipe down anything and everything in your treatment room, the door handles, anything that the client would touch, the chairs, the this, and that. I mean, just the list goes on. I think we don't do this well enough, and I think we all can do a little bit better. So there you have it. Then it goes into totally immersing your implements too. And we spoke about that. We talked about the decontamination, the disinfection, where you have to soak your implements. I remember a couple of years ago having the Barbicide wet sanitizer jars. They were, like about yay big. But buy the extra long ones would be my suggestion. If you're kind of looking for things to purchase at end of year that, maybe you're a good tax deductible item or whatever for your accounting records, look at all your disinfection implements and your equipment. Purchase the extra longs, because in South Carolina, we're not able to use the UV sanitizers anymore. UV light boxes cannot use. I'll show you where that says that, and maybe you know this already, but you've got to be able to disinfect and soak your makeup brushes, your facial brushes, all that. Those are the things that are not disposable that we reuse. So again, everything has to be completely immersed and covered. It can't be hanging out the top. So keep that in mind. And this just goes on a little bit further, just about, electrical implements and disinfecting. I would read this. I'm telling you, this is up to you guys to read this stuff and make sure you're putting it into place. And everybody that has a salon license, I mean, you have to have these publicly posted anyways. But I like it in this slideshow. I think it looks a little bit prettier. Again, you can use this if you want to in trainings and that sort of thing. Post these in your dispensary. Make sanitation fun. There's always a way to make anything fun. I always tell my students math can be fun, science can be fun, sanitation can be fun. We have to find ways to make that important. Okay, this is my big one. Towel warmers. Now, I just said we got to wipe down the handles on it, but look at what it says here. It says towel warmers must be disinfected daily. Salons using hot steam towels must meet these requirements. And this is in the board rules and regs. I think that people need to read this one, because look, Towels must be washed with detergent and bleach. Seriously, towels must be washed with detergent and bleach. You have to wash with color safe bleach. People ask me this question all the time, especially in CEUs, and they say, well, what if I want to use organic, detergent, whatever? You can't, not in commercial situations where you're serving the public. Use it in your home. You can't use it at the spa. Everything has to be thought of in a different way. You're serving the public, and this is what your board requires of you. So detergent and bleach, then dry it on hot. Practitioners preparing the towels. This is in the board stuff. So, hey, if you've got somebody helping you do this and then they're not wearing those gloves to prepare those towels, they're doing it wrong. Practitioners preparing towels for the warmers must first wash their hands and wear gloves. Wow, I think that's not done either. Wet towels used in services must be prepared fresh each day. Someone told me recently that they were working at a place where the owner was telling them to keep the towels in the hot towel cabinet that were not used and to use the next day. I'm looking at y'all's faces. Anybody have a weird face? I see y'all. That's not okay. We cannot leave hot towels in the hot towel cabinet overnight. That's disgusting. And you would think that's common sense, but business owners, come on now. That's not okay. Make sure those are laundered every day, prepared fresh each day. And seriously, if I hear that again, I will be turning people in to a board inspector. That's not okay. That can't happen. Every time I walk through all my suites every morning, I better see that hot towel cabinet open. Nothing's in there. Everything has been cleaned and disinfected on the interior, and the door's open because it needs to be to air out. Then the water catch tray. This is Courtney's rule for you, not in the LLR rules and regs, but that water catch tray, you guys, that drives me absolutely insane. And I must have seen someone that did not clean theirs out ever, because mold can grow in there. Did you know that? Do y'all ever look at those water catch trays? Make sure you pull those out every day, take it to the sink, clean it out with soap and water. I would even spray it with disinfectant, whatever. And then when I'm doing my walkthrough, I see those water catch trays sitting upside down on the top of the hot towel cabinet. And then Carlos, our custodian, will come through every day, and then he'll put them back where they need to go, Easy. Just make sure you're cleaning that towel cabinet. That drives me crazy. That thing holds water. Okay, then liquids, creams, powders, and other cosmetic preparations. Just, common sense here. Take a look at it. The one thing, I'm going to show you something that I actually didn't even see until recently when I redid this slideshow. Make sure you're, of course, pulling everything out for single use. You've got to take some sort of a wax stick, product stick, whatever. If it's in a tub, grab a little bit, then close the container and never double dip. We know that. But look at what it says here about cosmetic pencils for makeup. And I almost love what has been transpiring this year about the education with infection control, because makeup artists at these department stores are doing way better now. They were doing horribly. They were never disinfecting their makeup stations. They were not keeping the testers covered. They were just keeping things in a cup out in the open, like makeup brushes and whatever. So y'all know. But look at what it says. Cosmetic pencils must be sharpened before each use. Okay, we know that. But then look what it says. Cosmetic pencil sharpeners must be disinfected after each use. I know plenty of people that probably have never seen that one. So if you have makeup in your salon or spa and you are sharpening, that's the good thing. But then you need to put the actual pencil sharpener in a to be disinfected little section and then carry that to your sink to do all the steps. So keep that in mind. That's one thing I thought was worth going over. Then waxing hair removal, guys, waxing hair removal. Look, everybody knows what to do. And yet I keep hearing stories. Never double dip in your wax pots. Y'all know this, but that is apparently something people just do. I had someone come in. We're looking at hiring some more teachers at some point a couple of months ago, and all of our teachers, we do a group interview. We were listening to this one gal, and she was so sweet, but she said that she managed this hair salon, you guys, and she allowed this woman to double dip multiple times. Okay, and then ultimately they ended up getting fines and all sorts of things for spreading some sort of an issue between clients. And of course, we couldn't hire her. One of my teachers said, Courtney, you know, if that was the case, you know, she would have issued her a warning, one warning, and then after that, she would have to fire her. I said, you know, I agree with that. You cannot let people as a manager just keep on keeping on, and that's really not good management material in my personal opinion. So again, look at all these things. Now, another spot we're going to talk about, I think it's on another slide, is about the fact that any sort of roll-on wax is prohibited in South Carolina. If you're still using roll-on waxing kits, get rid of them. Okay, if you're still using roll-on wax kits, get rid of them. That's not applicable now. Make sure they're pots and make sure you're never double dipping. Okay. Then headrest, shampoo bowls, treatment tables, you guys, every time. So I'll keep this one short and sweet. Make sure you disinfect every single time. So again, I literally just pulled the ones that I find to be very important. This is most certainly not all the rules and regs, but very important to remember. Towels, we talked about that. So everything needs to be laundered with an actual disinfectant solution. So color safe bleach is going to be what you do, but you've got to make sure to have separate canisters or whatever for soiled linens versus clean. So your clean linens go in closed cabinets. You cannot just leave clean linens laying out. I'm going to go one step further, and I'll tell you what I did with my staff not too long ago, sometime over the summer. I think I figured out who it was, and it was Carlos, and bless his heart, because he's not a cosmetologist or esthetician, right? And I had to tell him, I said, listen, we cannot take clean towels or linens out of the dryer and put them in a bin and just stick them on the table. You can't do that. That's going to cause all sorts of debris and whatever from the air to just settle down on it. You may as well rewash it. I said, as soon as it comes out of the dryer, you have to fold things and put it away. Seriously, guys, don't just put clean stuff somewhere and you're like, oh, I'll fold that in an hour. I'll fold it tomorrow and put it away. No, 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 no. That's not how this works. Everything has to go in a closed container immediately, or closed cabinets. And then of course, soiled linens. I'll show you, like I said, my COVID written plan, but soiled linens, even if you put stuff in a hamper in your treatment room between clients, make sure you're actually between clients taking those soiled linens and taking them to your laundry facilities. You shouldn't leave a bunch of soiled linens in your room, even if it's in a closed container. That's my personal opinion, especially this year. You need to think a little bit more. Take it to the laundry facilities, okay? Then, almost done with this section, guys. Roll-on wax is prohibited. We talked about that. Get rid of it. In South Carolina, UV light boxes are prohibited. I don't agree with that one, but I did ask, and they said, no, 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 it's never coming back. So get over it, throw them away, get rid of them. In Georgia, North Carolina, they might be required. You know, so I still teach about these, but they're prohibited in South Carolina. And then this is the rule where it says autoclaves. If you choose to have one, they have to be spore tested every 30 days by an outside party, and so on and so forth. So again, please let me know if you have any questions about this. I'll show you on the website where this actual handout is located. And then I covered brands, because you know we can't talk brands in CEU classes, but look at this pretty picture here. Everything is covered and everything is clean. I love a clean wax pot. I kind of love their large giant wax pots. I know y'all can appreciate that, but everything is covered and everything is clean. Aseptic technique, we teach this a lot. And so what I want you to do is look at that picture there and look at that paper towel that's just laying there. We're going to pretend like there's a little pair of tweezers or something, a little pair of scissors for eyebrows, kind of folded up nice and neatly in that paper towel. And that is what is called aseptic technique. So it's kind of just pulling everything out, ready to go for your client, but yet covering it until ready to use. So make sure when you're preparing for waxing, preparing for a facial, whatever, everything is covered. It's not just laying out in the open. Everything is covered. That's called aseptic technique, which means using practices and procedures to prevent contamination from pathogens, okay, which is harmful bacteria. It involves applying the strictest rules to minimize any sort of infection, okay? Now, LLR website. If you go to llr.sc.gov/Cosmo, I'm trying to make this a little bit bigger for you guys, but yet I'm still looking at your pictures off to the side here. So here you are. The website has changed. I'm sure y'all all have seen this website, but the website's probably, this one's probably about a year old or so. If you hover over licensing and services, this is where you can click on file a complaint. And I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, but seriously, if you think someone's out of compliance, always remember it's never about closing someone down or getting someone's license revoked, because oftentimes that actually won't happen. It'll help them come into compliance and they'll be better for it, and our industry will be better for it. Stop thinking, how is this going to affect me? We need to think, how is this going to affect everybody as a whole and the industry that we care for? So seriously, it's not about whether you love this person or not. It's about the whole industry. So think bigger. Always think from an aerial perspective. And I told my son that the other day in the car, because I put him in private school this year and the curriculum's harder, bless his heart. He's in 4th grade. And I told him, I said, you know, Gunnar, don't think about life in this small little box right now. I said, you have lots more to learn. And I know you might not understand what I'm telling you now. I said, but your superpower in this lifetime will be to look at life from an aerial perspective. Because if you do, you'll see how these tiny little moments and these tiny things today don't really matter. They're super small and just, you know, are going to not matter tomorrow. So look at things from a bigger perspective. You'll never get overwhelmed and you'll be able to conquer anything that you have come your way, you know. But there's where that is. Then if you look down here in this blue section and you see board orders, I'm not going to click on that right now. Feel free to check that out where it says board orders. That's where you can see names, you can see actual things people were fined for. It really helps. If you have someone that works with you that has sanitation issues and you kind of want to show them something to get them just to have that light bulb turn on, have people read a few of these board orders, you guys. It would scare anybody. I mean, there's fines from $1,000 up to $10,000 for various infractions. And so I'm just going to say, check that out. It will be eye-opening. I'm glad they have this here because we all need to be held accountable. All these alerts are from COVID stuff this year. Good to read. Then if you click on resources and click on laws and policies where it says updated sanitary and safety rules, of course it is updated as of June of 2017, you will see that here. So these are where these come from that I just went over. It's only a couple pages long. So this is a little bit different than some of the other things. Yeah, 5 pages. Print this, you guys, put it in your dispensary and have your entire staff sign it annually. Seriously, because everybody should be in charge of knowing this stuff forward and backward. Everything I say right now, you should already say, oh, I know that, you know, it's important. Okay. Then real quick, if you go to my website and it is seestheticsinstitute.com, hover over about, click on COVID-19 written plan. I will say one of my finest moments in this world, and it almost killed me, was to get this school nationally accredited by myself. That was when I wasn't married. I'm now married to the most amazing man in the world. He's the CEO of my school. But, ooh, when I wasn't with anybody, I got the school nationally accredited. What that means is you have to be a good writer. You have to really care about compliance and ethics. And I had to write so many written plans, it's not even funny. And if I shared with you everything else that I had to do, you would just, your head would spin. But now that I just do this kind of stuff all the time, and I love writing. I write articles for Dermoscope magazine, and actually I'm gonna sit here while some of these things are playing and finish an article that's due for Dermoscope today. But look, written plans are easy enough for me to write, which means here, please copy and paste is my point. COVID-19 written plan. If you don't have this on your website, then you need to do it today. Okay, if you do not have a COVID-19 written plan on your website, you need to have it today. So you can take a look at this, and I won't go in too much detail because I did go through this in great detail the last virtual class I did about a week or 2 weeks ago. So take this, copy paste. Of course, anything that it says where it's a student, you're going to put employee guidelines, right? And if it says something about school, you're going to change it to your facility name or whatever. So we have student guidelines. One thing I want to show you, and you can again change this to where it says employees. Students are required to have their temperatures tested daily prior to entering the facilities. Your employees should have their temperatures tested daily. So here's what, if I pulled up my email right now, I have got so many color-coded folders, it's not even funny. I love organization, it makes me happy. So I have a folder with student temperatures. That's literally the name of it. So you could do one that says employee temperatures. And of course, everything's saved in a cloud. Every teacher has to send me every day their actual roster and the temperature for that student for that day. Because if anything were to ever happen or questions came up, we would say, no, we tested their temperature. Here's what it was that day. Seriously, don't think that COVID's over. You guys, don't think it's over. Y'all need to be held accountable this year. Do it right up until the end. Keep going into 2021. Employees, yourself, whoever, make sure you test that temperature. Make sure you document it every day. Then look at what it says. Students are required, or you could say employees are required to wear masks when performing services on each other and members of the public. They can be sent home if they don't. Let's just say that. And you should make that very clear in your salon or spa too. Have to wear your masks when serving the public. End of story. If you don't like it, go, right? Students are required to wear gloves when performing services on each other and members of the public. Of course, same for employees too. Students are required, this is important, to sit 6 feet apart in all classroom areas. However, where spacing 6 feet apart is not possible, students, or in your case, employees, are required to wear face masks. I know everybody's getting comfortable with each other now. I really, 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 really do. However, still keep this into consideration. That entire section is important. If you are less than 6 feet apart from one another, wear a mask. It's just good to showcase that, especially in public spaces, and your business is a public space. Okay. Then here's client guidelines. This whole section, while I think it's important to have this on the website, is actually important to showcase at your front desk too. So you could put this in sort of a Word document or Google Doc or something, print it, put it in a acrylic display on your front desk for people to read. You could even have all this digitally for people to sign. So it goes into client guidelines for their arrival, service guidelines, prior to service, what's going to happen during the service, okay? And this is kind of applicable to the provider as well, if you read any of these. So please feel free to take a look at this today. Makeup artists, what's required of them after the service in regards to what you do as a provider, right? Linens, disinfecting all work areas, washing your hands. And these are more than just the OSHA guidelines that were suggested. In fact, I thought that the OSHA guidelines were pretty bare minimum, the ones that came out on the LLR website. So this is a little bit more than that. So that's why I say copy, paste, enjoy. Then environmental guidelines, cleaning devices, cleaning surfaces, cleaning linen. So again, a lot more detail, there you have it. And then down here, guidelines for students testing positive for COVID, but you could also change that to guidelines for employees testing positive. And then down here, guidelines for classmates, or you could say guidelines for coworkers having been in contact with an employee testing positive for COVID-19. I think this one's really important. The first one, it is heavily encouraged that all students or employees take measures to receive testing if they believe they've been in close contact with someone that's tested positive. What I want you to know is that I asked my attorney a long time ago now, I guess back in March, I said, now, Carl, can you legally make someone take a COVID test or go get tested for COVID? He said, no, you can't. You can heavily encourage, right? But you can't make someone do something to their bodies that they don't want to do. You can never make someone do that. So make sure not to word things that way, legal wise. And gosh, I could have gone to law school too. Now I've written all these contracts and plans and all this kind of stuff. Make sure the way you word things, heavily encouraged, right? Instead of it is required. It's just the way that it is. It's just the way it is. So there, check that out and you're good. All right. Then I want to show you this one. Then we're going to get into our pre-recorded lectures. Totally, you guys take your personal breaks because I'm going to keep going this entire time for 6 hours. We will not have any breaks from this class. So feel free to, carry your computer around with you, whatever it is you're doing today. I understand all that stuff. All right. So you're here because you're interested in aesthetics equipment and facial techniques. So the last 2 hours of the class are going to be me showcasing and talking through demonstrations, which I think you're going to love and get inspired by. But I wanted to make sure you saw this first. So lesson objectives, we're going to just quickly chat about microdermabrasion, LED light therapy, hydrodermabrasion, RF skin tightening, and microchanneling. All these things are aesthetics friendly. All these things you can do without a physician present. And I just wanted to make sure you kind of knew some just, jumping points on these. Many of you do these already and have this equipment, and some of you may not. So this is my general presentation for students, especially new students. And this is kind of your book definition of microdermabrasion: diminishing the look of sun damage, stimulating cell metabolism, stimulating blood flow. But as we know, and y'all know I love teaching on histology, microdermabrasion is very much diamond tipped little, it's either a diamond tipped wand or it's your medical grade aluminum oxide crystals that spit out onto the skin. You either have one or the other piece of microdermabrasion equipment. However, I need to make sure that my students understand that microdermabrasion only resurfaces the top, the stratum corneum. So it feels great and it looks good. There's no downtime from it. However, this claim here that's more of a book definition of diminishing sun damage and hyperpigmentation, I don't like that because that's not necessarily the case. It's going to diminish the look of it, but it's not removing it. So again, words, right? Diminishing the look of is different than removing. I always say if you're trying to get rid of hyperpigmentation, you got to incorporate ingredients specifically at certain concentrations and pH levels, chemical peels, right, in order to assist microdermabrasion with getting those looks or whatever. So things with kojic acid in it, kojic acid's good for brightening. Things with your vitamin C in it, that's good for brightening as well, but more in a nourishing way. Or you've got your arbutin and hydroquinone, your lighteners, those ingredients. So I love ingredients, and that was the actual class that I taught the other week for a live virtual course. If any of you are interested in just honestly the recording of those for no CEU credit whatsoever, I'm happy to send that your way. So definitely request it if you would like, because I love education. I think all of this really just goes so cohesively together. You can't just learn one without the other sometimes. But microdermabrasion, we all have known and loved this forever. I'm not talking about brands. I do have my specific brands that I love, but we're not going to talk about that today. But microdermabrasion can either be done alone or can be paired with certain peels. But real quick, backing up to microderm, write this down if you don't know this one. Never, ever, 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 no matter what, never pair microdermabrasion with glycolic peels. And that is Courtney's rule of thumb, okay? Never ever pair microdermabrasion with glycolic peels. And here's why I say that. Most people, not all, but most people will end up having little scrapes and scratches on their face the next day if you do that. And here's why. Glycolic acid has a molecular weight of 76. So it is the lowest weight AHA that exists in 2020, or, for right now anyways. So that goes down really deep to the basal layer before you even have a chance to neutralize it, guys. If you microdermabrated over my arm right now and you looked at it from a microscopic perspective, you would see little tiny abrasions on the skin, whereas it feels good to the naked eye and looks good and everything. But on a smaller note, it's going to look like I abraded probably more over here than I did over here. There's no way you could do it exactly even. It's just the way it is. So if you put a glycolic peel on top of the skin right after that, it would completely over process the skin before you did anything, seriously. And some of you might be sitting here saying, well, I do glycolic peels all the time with microdermabrasion. I promise you, if you did not have any issues, it was an extremely buffered glycolic. I'm speaking to the free acid glycolics, very watery glycolic peels with the lower pH levels. So don't forget that. Don't ever do microdermabrasion with glycolic, okay? It's not going to work in terms of, it's going to cause more issues than anything else. So any other peel, you're good to go. All right, LED light therapy. I'm not a fan of the handheld ones like you see pictured here. I love the shield, and you're going to see the shield in the demonstration later today. So LED light therapy is very, very popular. I love this. We actually have an entire tanning bed, believe it or not, an actual tanning bed at the school that doesn't have UV bulbs in it. We have LED bulbs in it. And I had a client email me the other day and she said, Courtney, I kid you not, I've had psoriasis and eczema and all these things. And, I was told the LED light would help. And I've been doing the facials, the LED facials, but I didn't even think of the full body. And she said, oh my God, it's been working wonders. So we put people in there for 20 minutes. They love it. It's easy for our students because they clean it, of course, and disinfect it. They set the timer for them. They wait outside the room until they're done, and then they turn the room. So it's very easy, and the clients love it. It's a great upgrade to any facial treatments you do, full body LED. So think about that. Then it goes into what red and blue does. And many of you know this, but red LED is always great for reducing inflammation, perfect for production of collagen is probably the main thing I would say it does, which is why it reduces inflammation, because it produces new cells. Really helps with folks that have rosacea, telangiectasias, eczema, psoriasis, all those things. So don't forget that. That I love about red LED. I mean, if you actually upgraded every single facial you did with red LED, you would have absolutely zero issues with clients having overprocessing from their chemical peels. I will tell you right now. Or if you think you were too harsh for that microdermabrasion machine or whatever, if y'all like dermaplaning and all the other advanced stuff, LED will always calm down the skin. I cannot speak to it enough. There's no heat that comes off of it. It's easy to perform. Again, I love the shield, which you're going to see because you can perform the massage with it. And it's just the best. It's just the best. So just keep that in mind. Then blue LED kills the P9 acne bacteria. And when you think of acne bacteria, always think of what kills it. Oxygen kills bacteria in the pores, okay? Oxygen kills bacteria in the pores. And so what I always tell the students is you need oxygen ingredients if you're doing ingredients, not using LED, but using ingredients. So benzoyl peroxide, it's an oxidative stress molecule, so not great for your skin long term, to be honest with you, but benzoyl peroxide does kill acne bacteria, which only comes about in grade 3 and 4 acne, by the way. So once the redness and inflammation, the cysts start coming up, that's when the grade 3 and 4 is happening. And there you have it. Blue LED is great for those folks. But then you've got perfluorodecolon, you've got some other ingredients that are really great for introducing oxygen into the pores. And you've got to work cohesively with other things. I think it's one thing to sit here today and talk about aesthetics equipment only, but we need to always look at where they're using at home. Always, always. They just go hand in hand. You know that. And this goes into a couple of other things. The term photo means light. So if you want to call it a photofacial, what's on our menu is called the photogenic facial, which is LED plus a little peel, plus a lot of massage and all that good stuff. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I love a good photofacial, but of course, many of us in aesthetics that work with lasers, we call those photofacials because photo also means light. So however you would like to differentiate that for yourself. Then HYDRADERMABRASION. Now, y'all know we cannot use the term hydrofacial. That is a brand, and we can't talk about brands. So that's why I'm calling this HYDRADERMABRASION. That's the term, okay? You can buy all sorts of different branded equipment. There's so many options out there today. But what I love about this is that this came into the market just a couple years ago now. And I remember when I first brought this into the school as a demo, and I couldn't afford these machines at the time. And eventually I purchased two full-size machines. And in 2020, or 2021, we're fixing to buy a bunch more for the students to have in every single treatment room. And so this is key. Here's what it is. Most clients leave from facials and peels leaving very dry and tight. And there has been this loss in the aesthetics treatment room of that glow, that hydration, and people leaving feeling like they can go to a red carpet event or go out into the world and not have to deal with the downtime. And this is where it is. So I always say, use this for just about anybody. Turn down the suction. But when you want to pair this with folks that you actually have to do treatments, like big treatments for, the deep lines and wrinkles, the splotchy hormonal hyperpigmentation, the cystic jawline acne, this is an in-between. So the way I teach aesthetics, and you'll know this if you know me and have been to my classes, I always talk about acids, nourishers, okay? Acids to break the skin cells down, nourishers to build cells up. So we love our chemical peels, we love our acids, we love things that break the skin cells down to produce mitosis, but you know, the thing is, guys, you've got to make sure that you hydrate and protect that lipid barrier. So I'll say that one more time. Your goal as an esthetician should not just be about breaking skin cells down. It should be about protecting the lipid barrier. So when we formulate the client care plans, and this is not that class today. If you want to do client care plans, I think we have maybe one more come up, but client care plans, when you're doing, let's say, a double exfoliation facial with a salicylic peel to start for someone with oily acne prone skin, we'll just say. And then the next one, you're going to do a triple exfoliation. It pairs microdermabrasion with a scrub and with, gosh, what else? What else would there be? Let's do like a Jesner 1 layer. And then the next one, we're going to do a triple exfoliation facial with 2 to 3 layers of a Jesner. And then we might do a HYDRADERMABRASION after that to clean up all that dead skin and to infuse just oxygen and water into the skin. And that is a beautiful thing. You can also have the versions of these equipment then infuse antioxidants into the skin as well. And you're going to see that I'm pairing this with skin tightening, radiofrequency skin tightening in the demo in a little bit. There's so many ways to use it. And again, always think breaking skin cells down in one moment and building cells up in another. Always be alternating and the skin will be beautiful forever. I'm telling you. Okay, then RF skin tightening. So this one and one more, and then we're going to get into the next stuff that's pre-recorded. Okay, so RF skin tightening. I know this definition. I'll close my eyes and I'll say it. RF skin tightening is alternating energy waveforms that produce non-specific localized heat in the dermis and epidermis. Seriously, you should remember that. And here's how you're going to remember it. Alternating energy waveforms that produce non-specific localized heat in the dermis and epidermis. Your question for me right now is, Courtney, well, how can we do this as an esthetician because we're only licensed to work on the epidermis only? I already knew this question and I asked it to a board member and I said, well, you know, is this okay for estheticians to use? And she said, yes. And I have that documented where she said yes, because it is not ablating into the skin. It is not ablating into the skin. So this is actually, if you see this picture, and I can't show the brand, but that is actually the machine that we have. That is only one head. So this is a smaller one for neck and jowls, nasolabial folds, all that good stuff. Then there's a bigger one for body. And then there's also 2 more. So there's one without the suction and that sort of thing. And there's one that just has the RF skin tight, there's one that just has the RF skin tightening, those 2 modalities. And then the other 2 have the suction with it too. So if you're doing abdominal fat or cellulite or something along those lines, you can see the benefits of that. But here's what, it's non-invasive, as you see here, and it's great for all sorts of areas of the body. And I remember being in esthetician school, you guys, and no one then did skin tightening procedures. I don't even think that stuff existed. Then there's things that tighten the skin topically now, such as peptides and growth factors. That didn't exist when I was in esthetician school, right? So many things you can do that are non-invasive now that really just produce all that. So I'll always say good, better, best. Let me give you that and then we'll move on. Good, better, best with equipment. Good is going to be microcurrent over here. Microcurrent I am okay with in one moment and then I'm not in another. And actually that's my opinion. And here's why. Microcurrent, the actual definition of it is that it produces temporary skin tightening of facial muscles. And that's the actual definition. It produces temporary skin tightening of facial muscles only. My problem with that is that it's temporary and it's not long-term. It's working with facial muscles, guys. So that is very superficial. You need to be able to get down into the dermis to produce fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are that cell that produce collagen, elastin, and glycosaminoglycans, which is your body's actual protein that produces hyaluronic acid, which is how we look so plump and whatever. And then as we get older, it goes away. So microcurrent's good. It's okay. You know, it's okay. It's just not going to produce long-term results. It's good for if you're going to a party or an event that night or something along those lines. So good microcurrent. Better is going to be this RF skin tightening because it sends energy waves alternating between the epidermis and dermis. We like that. It works. We have lots of good feedback from this from clients, which is why I wanted to incorporate that in this class today. And then the best, if you need something to kind of compare it to is laser skin tightening. Okay, laser skin tightening has to have physician oversight, guys, but it sends laser energy down into the dermis directly. So it bypasses the epidermis all the way. So good microcurrent, better RF skin tight, and the best laser skin tightening. And then further from that would be go get a facelift, right? So that is where you are. But I love that this is an aesthetics modality you can use that truly actually gives some phenomenal results. And the one thing I'll say before we move on is typically every piece of equipment is different, but for face, they usually recommend between 5 to 8 sessions, about 3 weeks apart. Okay, and then for body, 8 to 10 sessions, about 3 weeks apart. And then of course you have to do maintenance. Because it's non-invasive, maintenance is always required. Then what you're going to do with microchanneling, we love this. If you're interested, I've got another class coming up next year for this one, and our students learn this and do it all the time. You can do the superficial depths, everybody. The 0.25 and 0.50, those are the ones you can do. Okay, and what happens is it sends little needles into the skin to open up channels, so that way you can send in some superficial chemical peels or send in your squalene, your hyaluronic acid, your stem cells, whatever you want to do to plump up those skin cells and produce new skin, and lots of relief for sensitive skin conditions, as you can see. But you cannot go deeper than 1 millimeter. Beyond 1 millimeter is more dermal. Okay, so think of your deeper scarring and deeper things where micro needling is required, and that typically goes down to 2.5 millimeters, just to give you some sort of comparison there. So y'all can do this one. There's no